Mabuhay, everyone. Welcome to our very first installment of Puso to Puso, where we invite healthcare professionals to answer your free health questions. I'm one of your hosts, Jade Vanta, pronouns he, him, his.
And I'm your second host, Mika Legaspi, pronouns she, her, hers. And this podcast is a program run by the Lambda intern class from Puso, and a new episode will be released periodically.
I'm your third host today, Brittany Pangalaman, pronouns she, her, hers, and today we have our special guest with us today, Puso's very own Kavita Joshi. Kavita, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us further about your occupation?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you all for hosting this amazing program. We've never done anything like this in Puso before, so I'm really excited where I'm a guest in today's segment and how this is gonna go in the future. But yes, hello, I'm Kavita Joshi. I'm a third year human bio major, and I'm also earning a minor in medical humanities. Trying to be go through the pre-med route and specialize either in general surgery or OBGYN. But I'm still pretty open to whatever comes down the line. But yeah, that's it for my occupation.
That's very interesting. Thank you for joining us. And so, one of our first questions is what made you interested in working as a medical assistant, and how did you become one? And did you need a license for it, or?
Mhm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, so just like many other people who decided healthcare as their passion, I became interested in healthcare very early in my life. And it kind of started off with me taking care of my grandpa, helping cure any minor injuries. But specifically, what started off my personal experience was because of my sister, who fortunately was able to overcome her experience and be with me here today. But just like an overview of that situation, my sister had gotten into like a terrible accident when she was around like 6 years old. And thankfully, like with the work and cooperation of like the medical team and the nurses and doctors there, she was able to recover from that incident and like is here with me today. But that's just like my personal experience of how like what really made me become interested in health field. But like even to this day, you can still see. I still get the constant reminder of her 24 stitches on her head, and it just brings back the memories of why I wanted to join it in the first place. And then on top of that, like the fact that my family and my parents were able to entrust their life in the hands of just scholar strangers, it just kind of amazes me how that one experience changed not only my childhood, but it kind of has shaped me for who I am today. And so, yeah, since I was very little, I knew healthcare was for me, but it wasn't solidified until like I got older. And overall, what it comes down for me is that I want to be able to instill my passion of driving change into the world and focusing like on the happiness kind of thing. And that's what I want to strive within the field of medicine. Just basically like my overall goal is to being there for others and bringing that positivity in other people's lives.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Moving on to the next question, what is your typical day in the clinic?
Yes, that's a good question too. So we are a small clinic. First of all, I'm a medical assistant, and we are a small clinic located in downtown Fullerton, and it's run by our primary care physician, who's Dr. Henry Kaw. And honestly, this clinic really makes me feel at home. Like I just started back in during Christmas time in 2020, so like I'm more than a month and a half, and honestly speaking, I've never enjoyed anything more in my life than coming to this office and spending time with these coworkers and like working alongside with these people. And even though there's only 7 of us in the office, we just got close in a matter of weeks. And that kind of explains how like a typical day in the clinic goes, just because like we're very efficient with things, but at the same time, we know how to have fun at appropriate times, whether it's break time or just make a laugh of anything. But basically, like our facility handles a lot of things. So we are a PCP clinic. We also have a medical spa. So the doctor does Botox and fillers and other procedures. And then on top of that, we also are a COVID testing center. And then I know that might seem shocking, like how are we able to run all that? But the number one thing in our facility is like being efficient, being cautious and clean, and staying organized. And that's what we strive in a normal day, just to keep like, just to provide the best care for these patients. Typically, going on to like what my specific day looks like is I work as the main front desk assistant. And so I make appointments, I verify insurances, I answer calls. I help patients get their prescriptions filled out. I do COVID testing, so the nasal swab and stuff like that. And I manage the monetary side of that. Um, but again, this clinic is very flexible. And so Dr. Ka is always willing to teach me more. And in a couple of months, or maybe this month, I'm trying to learn how to do fasting, or like how to draw blood again. And then the insurance and billing side of healthcare as well. I'm still in the learning process, but hopefully in the future I can become a medical scribe as well. But it's very flexible.
That seems like a really busy job, but also very rewarding and fun. So moving on, how has COVID-19 affected your experience as an MA? I know that you just joined this clinic during COVID-19, but what different like precautions or just anything different that has taken place in the clinic?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, COVID-19 is very crucial during now. We don't know where the virus is heading, and we still need to be up to date on all the new precautions that need to be taken. But as for me, working as an MA, especially during when COVID was at its peak. So again, I started in Christmas, and that's when cases were extreme and they were peaking, especially in Orange County. So we would get 100 plus calls, like asking about tests, asking about rapid or PCR. And initially, and that was just when we started testing as well. So it was pretty hectic. And as my first official job in the real world, it seemed like it was a lot to manage, but um, it became like a easy routine to get a hang of in a week or so. But I think the toughest experiences that I've already have was actually when I'm on a phone call with a patient one day booking a COVID test or a follow-up for a COVID test. And then hearing they can't make it to their appointment or their telemedicine appointment just because they've been admitted to the hospital. And then in a matter of days, unfortunately, have to inactivate their patient portals. And these patients I've never seen before. We try to limit as many patients as we can see in our facility. So a lot of them were just telemedicines. And even though I've never seen them, it was just very heartbreaking. And it left me in silence every time I had to hear a devastating call, like of a patient passing away. And it gave me a constant reminder of how like every little move we make, whether it's just stepping outside or not wearing a mask, kind of affects not only us, but everyone around us. So that's definitely like the hardest times that I've ever experienced as an MA.
Thank you for sharing that. I understand that it's very hard during these times to keep going with what you do. And thank you for continuing to do your work. And I know you mentioned earlier that your sister is a big part of what motivates you, but just overall, when it gets tough or when you're getting burdened by work and school, what keeps you motivated, like beyond that as well?
Yeah, thank you, Mika. So yeah, as I mentioned before, there's actually two things that keep me motivated, and they kind of correlate to each other. But basically, my background and where I came from. So original reason was because my sister experienced, as you said, and just to see how much happiness and positivity that I can spread to others is kind of my constant goal in life. And whether that's just being an OBGYN and bringing in new forms every day, new forms of life every day, or being an aspiring surgeon and constantly being on the go and curing something or saving patients. And also, as cliche as it sounds, like for me, like seeing everyone else healthy is my essential goal. And I feel like as a healthcare provider, I can implement that. So that's a constant reminder of why I keep pushing myself within school or work or all these other involvements. Um, but another thing that's equally as important are actually my parents. They've literally given me everything, even when I don't ask for it. Obviously, a bright education, financial support, all the way to my career, and just their constant hustle, their constant like them, their selflessness really motivates me to be at least as half as accomplished as them, or like kind of make up for everything that they've gone through, all their struggles to get me to where I am today and even in the future. They always say that if they always ask me, like, is medicine for you? And if it is, just keep going for it. And they really have their whole heart into my career, whatever it may be, or whatever I decide it to be. And I just want to prove it to them that I can do it, as well as like make them happy that I'm accomplishing their dreams. So they've definitely the reason why I hustle so much, why I like work a lot and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for that question.
So I know you mentioned earlier that you're on the pursuit of being an OBGYN, but as an MA right now, have you learned anything about the healthcare field that you didn't know before?
Mhm. So one thing I learned about working in healthcare is that everything's interprofessional. So like me working at a front desk, even though I take care of like booking appointments, I learn a lot about medical terms. I learn about what's it called? Medication is used for anxiety or let's say for high blood pressure. So everything's like pretty interpersonal. And one thing that I've learned is that it doesn't even have to be a healthcare job where you learn a few techniques or like skills and stuff like that. So for example, I used to work at Gogi Grill at UTC. Yeah. And even from like a basic job like that, I was a cashier, and it actually helped me grow and put myself out there. I was able to communicate with um, the customers that came in, provide hopefully good customer service. But yeah, the little tips and skills that you apply within these jobs, whether it's the server, a chef, or a customer service in general, it makes you learn how to communicate with people. It helps you meet their needs or learn how to like help them out in a situation kind of thing, or be efficient, accurate with whatever work you're doing. So definitely everything I feel like is interprofessional. And as for like medicine in general, it's the same way. There's no difference. Like pharmacy, you need to learn all these medications, but you also need to learn how to communicate with patients as well, because they're not usually always like CVS or like Walgreens or stuff like that. They meet patients half of the time as well. So that's like one thing I've learned. Even though MA is just a little side hustle to where I want to be in the future, there's a lot of things that I learned from it. Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
it's really great. I think it's really great and important that you're pointing out that life skills can be learned anywhere, even when it's not specifically a medical job. So I think that's something that's a really great takeaway for those who are listening. And moving on, what is one piece of advice you'd give to the aspiring medical assistants currently listening to our podcast? And like, what advice would you give them to help them become one?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Britt. So just like a piece of advice that I would give is just to put yourself out there. And I know we've heard it so many times, but if there's something you want, just go for it. And I've learned over the years that even in high school, actually, that sometimes you can be your own worst critic or your enemy at times, with all these fears and anxiety of like not wanting to try something. And actually, I've been through that as well, like me not putting myself out there. In high school, I was the most introverted person ever. Like it was so bad. And then in college, I knew I wanted to, like, I needed to grow somehow. It doesn't mean I have to be extroverted, but I just needed to put myself out there, just needed to change something a little, just for myself to grow. So that's one tip that I would really highly recommend, just to put yourself out there. Obviously, if you're comfortable, but just try it out. Another advice that I would love to give is that to always remember that everyone's journey is unique. So whether even if we're heading through the same healthcare field, same route of healthcare field, or something else such as business or engineering, it's not about having a similar journey, but it's the differences that you get from it, or you joining different things or partaking in different things. That's honestly the real challenge. And grad school and med school, they don't look for the similarities, but they see how unique your journey is for you. So you can join as many clubs as you would love, but just always remember that you should do it for your own passion and for your own sake. And honestly, I was guilty of it too in my early years, but slowly we all learned. But these are just a few advices that I would give for everyone listening to this podcast.
Okay, awesome. That's honestly really valuable advice, and I'm honestly going to take that too. But thank you so much, Kavita, for your insight into the medical assisting world and just into your personal medical journey as well.
To everyone listening, make sure you follow us on SoundCloud at Puso to Puso and check out the video version of this podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/puso@UCI.
And to close out at Puso, we have a specific way. And if you could just hold out your hands like you're making a heart and connect with the person right next to you on the screen. And then I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and we're going to say, and Puso. So ready to also dip your hands. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, and Puso.
Puso.